Hello, adorable. You are welcome to Love Talk Therapy. Yesterday, I shared with you on what the spiritual awakening was. Today, I'd like us to look at the cause of a spiritual awakening. But first, I'd like us to define a spiritual awakening. What could a spiritual awakening be? It is a transformative time in our lives when the foundation of what we believe in, our understanding of the universe and how the universe works, gets shaken up. It's practically a time when everything that you believe in, your roots, your core, your belief system, your patterns, all of this comes to the surface. A spiritual awakening is not a one-time occurrence in life. It could happen repeatedly throughout the course of your life. So it could be a big awakening or a small one. Each awakening carries a unique message for the person to whom it's happening, and every awakening has a different learning experience. Everyone speaks of awakening differently because they experience it differently. Some people refer to an awakening as a time, a positive time in their lives when they were high on life, while others speak of it as a morbid time, more like a disturbing and unpleasant time in their lives. Some others yet recount a lack of interest or enthusiasm. This set of people experienced a great difficulty in finding a way back to themselves or who they thought they were originally. Whatever the case, it is always important to remember that no matter what an awakening is for you, whether it's a morbid time or a happy time or a time when you feel disheveled and completely confused, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Every awakening is unique, and it comes with 4 major gifts. It brings you closer to the universe. It brings you closer to self. It brings you closer to others, and it brings you closer to Source or to God. In the end, we all come to realize that we are one. We are all interconnected. All peoples, all tribes, all tongues, every religion, every race, and every nation, we are all one. There are several causes of a spiritual awakening, which is what we are actually looking at today. I would love us to focus on just 4 causes of an awakening, bearing in mind that everyone awakes for one reason or the other. Most of the messages and experiences during a spiritual awakening can seem really vague or unnecessary. At a point, you feel like it's pointless, but when the right time comes, everything comes together and it all starts to make sense. I want to put out this message for you who is listening to me today. You may be going through a very tough and a very trying time and nothing seems to make sense. I just want to remind you that you are cared for, you are loved, and that everything will make sense in the end. So the very first cause of a spiritual awakening is embracing and allowing the thought that there is something more to sink into your being, acknowledging your spiritual side. This type of awakening is usually super exciting. It practically feels like opening a Pandora's box. It is choosing to acknowledge your spiritual side. This awakening may be conscious or unconscious, meaning that you may play a little role or you may be totally ignorant. It may just be a little curiosity. You may have doubts, but here you are with me today listening to something about enlightenment. Your curiosity has definitely been sparked by something. Anything that you come across that has to do with awakening may have even found you completely accidentally. In this case, I want to let you know also that it was really meant to happen. The more you start reading about the unconventional and the stronger your curiosity, the bigger the chance for a spiritual awakening to occur. Acknowledging and connecting to your spiritual side means you are allowing for a new view of the universe to take place. Everything that you have previously thought to be the ultimate truth at this point crumbles. This is when people usually start to ask themselves very deep questions, begin to look at the power of their thoughts, believe in the law of attraction. They see multiple synchronicities in their lives, or they start connecting with their spirit or their spirit guides and become fascinated with the unknown. So if you're currently at this stage where you are embracing some more and questioning every single thing, you are welcome. You are in for a ride. My very first spiritual awakening, which was a kind of minor awakening, happened many years ago. It was a time when my heart was pressing in for more. So I took out time away from my family for months in my closet, just reading scripture, meditating, spending time in silence, praying, seeking for something that was deeper than I could describe with words right now. I just felt so strongly that there was supposed to be something more. So the first reason for which you may have an awakening may be because you're pressing and you're embracing the spiritual side and saying there's something more and I want more. The second cause for an awakening could be trauma. Trauma is one of the most difficult, if I may say, yet liberating causes of a spiritual awakening. It is something that cripples you and shakens you to the core, to the point where you have nothing left to do and nothing left to cling to but to surrender. This type of awakening happens when we reach such low states of consciousness. Most times we lose our self-esteem. We feel so lost within and powerless, so much so that we turn to a higher power, to source, to the divine, to God, to Allah, to Buddha, to Lord Krishna. I don't know who you believe in. Some go back to their ancestral lines to seek for answers. But this is a time when we reach a state where everything gives way and we are seeking for an answer. It is the time when the strongest of people bow and surrender to source, to the highest power. It is a time when we seek for guidance and liberation from a higher power. Everything suddenly seems pointless, and that pain consumes us so much so that this higher power seems to be the only answer. In essence, what happens is truly you let go. It does not matter what you think at this point of a supreme being, or if you carry a certain image or the name of someone. This is the place where even the biggest skeptics surrender. So right before you think that everything is lost as you undergo a trauma, something switches inside of you and your faith starts to lead the way. This is why we see people who hit their absolute lowest turn to source, turn to spirit, turn to whatever you may call it, and suddenly change their views and perception. Trauma brings you to surrender to a higher power. And after you surrender, you begin to experience a domino effect. Your faith and your connection to the spirit and to yourself only grows and keeps growing. When a spiritual awakening occurs due to deep trauma, it can be one of the most profound experiences ever. In a way, you switch from having nothing to lose to having everything to gain. The third cause of a spiritual awakening is healing the trauma that has affected you. Because as you go through a deep, profound healing of traumas and work through every blockage, the result is that you awake. When you start dismantling your mind and revisiting every impediment, everything that has kept you awake at night, you eventually break through them. Though the cleansing work continues, you get at some point to realize that you have tapped into something really amazing. By this, I'm encouraging you, if you've been through any form of trauma in your life, maybe you grew up and you were neglected by your parents, maybe you've been abused, maybe you've been so sick, maybe you've been through a divorce, maybe you've been through some form of grief. I want to encourage you to keep pressing into your healing because there are many beautiful things that await you at the end of the tunnel. If you're already going through a spiritual awakening, working through any form of trauma can accelerate the process of a spiritual awakening. For me, I've had multiple awakenings, big ones and little ones. However, there's one that shook the course of my life, which is by far the strongest and the longest of them all and the most transformative. Every awakening is unique and comes with its own gifts, but you may have awakenings that turn the course of your life completely around. This awakening forced me to delve deep, to give my undivided attention to the within. It took me to the roots, unconsciously revisiting the deepest traumas which were hidden within me for the most part of my life. It forced everything to the surface, and this accelerated a spiritual awakening for me, allowing me to go even deeper. Healing from any form of trauma brings you an amazing gift called acceptance. Just like surrendering, acceptance acts as a magical touch that enlightens your path. The last cause for a spiritual awakening is deepening your spiritual practices. Through constantly working with your spirit and not against your spirit, you grow as a human being and you encounter different lessons and learning curves each day. For some, going close to the suffering, being in an isolated place, being in nature for extended periods of time, cultivating a meditative or a yoga practice might be the cause of their spiritual awakening. Others awake in different ways. You could just be reading some literature, trying to understand and have more knowledge, and in the process of that, you awaken spiritually. If you consider yourself to be a spiritual person, whatever that means for you, and you are curious to know why you started going through a transformative time, also think about what has changed in your routine. Think about the things that you just started doing lately. It may be that a new person in your life sparked new interest or inspired you to go deeper. It may be that someone has had an influence on your life. It doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be so small. It just has to be enough to shake the foundation of your life and cause you to revisit the things that you believe in. These are but a few causes of a spiritual awakening. This list is by no means exhaustive. Remember that every individual has a unique experience. We all get to experience spiritual awakening differently. Some of the answers cannot be found in this video. Some of the answers cannot be found in books. Some of the answers cannot be found on the internet. Neither can it be found in any place except within your heart. Some of the answers that you seek with regards to life, with regards to spiritual awakening, can only be found when you open up your heart within you. Thank you for listening to Love Talk Therapy.